with this week's Montana Moment, brought to you by Montana Chevy dealers.
Malmstrom Air Force Base began as the Great Falls Army Air Force Base during World War II. It trained bomber crews in World War II and has played key roles in the military for more than 80 years. The Malmstrom Museum and Air Park hosts visitors from all over the world, and here they learn about Malmstrom's history and get a first-hand look at its vintage planes and vehicles. Kevin Mackey has our Montana Moment.
The intercontinental ballistic missile on display in the air park is a missile made up of decommissioned parts. An ICBM can be launched over 8,000 miles away in less than 30 minutes. It can hold up to 3 nuclear weapons.
This is our primary mission, ICBMs, and we have 150 launch facilities, generically known as silos, spread out across 13,800 square miles of Montana, where there's potentially one of these missiles on alert, ready to go right now within 60 seconds.
They are land-based missiles that are part of America's nuclear triad.
Strategic nuclear triad is the intercontinental ballistic missiles, the submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and our nuclear bombers. And so the ICBMs, they're expedient, but they're not a first-strike weapon. So our primary mission is deterrence.
Malmstrom, the base that was built to train bomber crews in World War II, has evolved into one of 3 intercontinental ballistic missile sites in the United States. Today, it remains hugely relevant. Rob Turnbow says the objective is to ensure the ICBMs are safe, secure, and controllable.
To be able to provide that trust to our allies and our adversaries that it will work right now within 60 seconds if we should need it, to deter our adversaries and assure our allies that the umbrella protection we promise works.
In the museum is a portrait of the late Colonel Einar Malmstrom, who was killed in an air crash in 1954. He was described as a likable motivator and the epitome of leadership. Great Falls Army Air Force Base was renamed Malmstrom in honor of the colonel. The museum unveils decades of Malmstrom history. Between 1943 and 45, when the Soviet Union was our ally, the United States helped the Soviets replenish its air force after Hitler invaded the Soviet Union.
We were receiving aircraft from manufacturing plants around the United States into here, where we would give them their final assembly, outfit them to Soviet specifications, paint them with the Soviet paint scheme. So they actually flew out of here looking like Soviet aircraft. However, as soon as World War II ended, the Cold War era pretty much began. And in 1948, Stalin found out within 24 hours of the West Berliners releasing their own currency, the Deutschmark, he decided to cut off the 2 remaining supply lines into West Berlin, effectively stranding over 2.2 million people with no way to get food supply or coal.
So the U.S. Air Force created a training base at Malmstrom for pilots flying cargo aircraft for the Berlin airlift, a venture by the United States and England to deliver supplies to desperate West Berliners.
They created a 21-day training program, and after the first course, 29 crews a week came through here for the next 14 months.
Malmstrom replicated Tempelhof Air Base in Berlin.
So when they left here, they knew what they were flying in and out of. It enabled them to have the ability to land and take off aircraft at Tempelhof in increments of 3 to 4 minutes. They built a dummy 5-story apartment building off the end of the runway, and they brought in a radar trailer because all of their flight training was instrument flight. It was not visual or VFR, it was all IFR.
The museum is filled with dozens of exhibits tracing Malmstrom's heritage. Rob is standing in front of components of what was called the Semi-Automatic Ground Environment Computer, or SAGE. They're small components of a 250-ton computer.
That 250-ton computer operates at a fraction of a billionth of the speed of our current computers and only holds a total of 7.2 megabytes of information, which is about 2 pictures from your smartphone.
On display in the Malmstrom's Air Park are a number of vintage airplanes and vehicles. This is a B-25 J. Mitchell bomber.
And we modified it to look like the 490th Bombardment Squadron flew in Burma under the China-Burma-India Theater of Operations during World War II as the Burma Bridge Busters.
Here's a 1942 Ford sedan staff car.
You know, your senior officers, general officers, flag officers, this is what they would ride in.
Here's an F-101 Voodoo.
I mean, they were on alert during the Cuban Missile Crisis. A 1963 Dodge Power Wagon. It would have been our ambulance for that time period. So that is the Peacekeeper Armored Vehicle. An EB-57E, so it was a modified B-57 bomber, but instead of bombs in the bomb bay, it was radar jamming equipment. So the aircraft behind me, the City of Great Falls, the function it performed here was as an air refueler and cargo aircraft transport.
Every plane, every vehicle tells a story. All the exhibits here are meant to preserve Malmstrom's legacy. as Montana Moments in Time. Kevin Mackey, NBC, Montana. If you want to watch this story again or any of our Montana Moments, go to NBCMontana.com/Montana Moment. These unique stories about the Treasure State, its history, and its great people are now the Montana Moment podcast. Look for new episodes every week. If you have a story idea, let us know. Until next time, be safe, stay healthy, and keep making Montana Moments.